Today I'm going to show you how to make a Victoria sponge. Firstly, we will need to make the cake. So for the cake you will need 230 grams of self-raising flour, 230 grams of caster sugar, 230 grams of margarine or butter, 4 eggs, 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract and 2 tablespoons of milk. Firstly, in a bowl, cream together your butter and your sugar. Then add your eggs and mix well. Then add your vanilla and your milk and mix well. Then finally add the self-raising flour and mix until really well combined. Then you want to use 2 cake tins. So I have used 2 6-inch cake tins or 16cm cake tins. Just make sure that you grease your tins really well with butter, margarine and then greaseproof paper. Then you want to split your cake mixture between the 2 tins. Then bake in a preheated oven at gas mark 5, 190 degrees centigrade or 170 fan assisted for about 35 to 45 minutes until a skewer comes out the cake clean. Then for our fillings we will need 115 grams of icing sugar, 50 grams of butter at room temperature, approximately 1 tablespoon of milk and about 200 grams of jam. Traditionally raspberry or strawberry are used, but you can use whatever flavour you like. Firstly, we want to make our buttercream. Usually I would make buttercream in a stand mixer, but I am very conscious people don't have the equipment to make this, so I'm going to show you how to make it by hand. So in a bowl add your icing sugar and then your butter cubed. It's very important that your butter be room temperature. If it's still cold it won't mix very well and we're going to struggle to make that buttercream. Then simply mix in your butter to your icing sugar. To try and keep the dust down, try and push the butter into the icing sugar. So I would never recommend using a hand mixer for buttercream just because of the amount of dust that it kind of throws up. So a stand mixer is quite good because you usually have covers on stand mixers so it keeps the icing dust in, or this way is quite good at keeping the icing dust down because if you push the butter into the buttercream then it doesn't create the dust. So it might take a while and you might need to take a couple of breaks because I did, but if you keep pushing that butter into the buttercream it will come together. Once you have mixed it as much as you can do, then you want to start adding your milk. This will then bring it together into a creamy consistency. Add a little bit at a time because if you add too much it will become too watery and then you'll have to add more icing sugar in to try and bring it back, but it takes quite a bit of icing sugar to bring it back. So you want it a spreadable consistency because you can get it creamy with it still being quite thick, which when you spread it, it will then tear your cake up. So you want it so then it spreads nicely on the cake without being too stiff that it tears the cake up. Then as an optional, I like to add a sugar syrup. So I have used 100 grams of granulated sugar and 200 millilitres of boiling water. So simply add your boiling water to your granulated sugar and stir it until it is dissolved. Again, you don't have to do this step. I just find it makes the cake really nice and moist. And then if you're not eating it all at the same time, it tends to help with the longevity of the cake. And then finally, we want to construct our cake. So firstly, you want to level one of your cakes. So to do this, I just get the cheapest bread knife I can find, and then I will go round the sides of the cake with a ruler, or this is my cake tape measure, so this is all it's used for. And you just go round and mark the same amount along the outside. I have done 3 centimeters for this, purely because that's the height of the cake to be able to level it off. So if you just mark it off by popping your knife into the sides, then once you've marked all the way round, just join all those marks up with your knife as you spin the cake round, going slowly and slowly further into the cake until it has levelled it off. This is one of the ways that I level cakes off instead of using one of the really expensive cake levelers. You can get cheap cake levelers, but they tend to rip the cake up. So just a cheap bread knife is really thin that it won't do that, and it just makes it a nice level edge. Then I'm just going to add my sugar syrup to my cake half. So just by spooning that sugar syrup on, it just makes the cake really nice and moist. And then to the top of the cake, I will then add my buttercream. Then, having got the other cake, I've just turned that upside down, and again just add the sugar syrup to the bottom and let it soak through. And then spread your jam to the bottom of that cake. And then simply sandwich the 2 cakes together. And then, as a nice decorative optional, I just sprinkle a little bit of icing sugar on the top. And there you have it. That's how you make a Victoria sponge.